Welcome, everybody. I am back. I've been on a little bit of a break, taking it a little bit easy, had some stuff to do. I'm back with my boy Nick Cage. Anyways, welcome back to the channel. And today I am actually here to talk about a movie that didn't piss me off. So there is a film that has recently come out, kind of making waves, a little bit of a smaller film, but it is called Strange Darlings, and it is directed by J.T. Mulner, and it is starring Willa Ferguson, Kyle Gallner, Barbara Hershey, and Ed Buggy Jr., set in rural Oregon. And so Strange Darlings is a bit of an interesting film. I had to go out of my way to see it. This film has a bit of a limited release and coming to other theaters, so I had to go to across the way to go and see it. So what did I think about this movie? Well, after seeing that abysmal movie that was The Crow, I'm happy to report this is a great movie. So let me give you a brief synopsis about what this is about, the good, the bad, and then my final thoughts and opinions. So Strange Darlings is about a one-night stand between these two individuals that turns into a game of cat and mouse. And it is divided into 6 narrative chapters and arranged in a non-linear order, and presents a dramatization pinnacle of a particular thing that's happening. With this movie, I don't want to give too much away if you want to see this. So this is a hard movie to talk about because of the sense that this movie, you have to go in with as little bit as possible. I would say don't even see a trailer. Go into this movie blind, and it'll definitely take you for a ride. So basically, what I could say about this movie without giving it away is that very early on, you know what's going on. But the interesting part about this movie is this movie does a Quentin Tarantino, and I know Quentin Tarantino didn't bookmark this, but this movie does a Quentin Tarantino where you're seeing the story unfold through these 6 chapters, but the chapters might say like chapter 1, but it's like in the middle of the story. And then we go back and you might skip to the end and then you go to the beginning. And I think what makes this thriller different from most is that on its face, this is a very basic, simple premise. It's this dude sleeps with this girl. He's got a dark secret. He basically chases her through most of this movie. But the thing about this movie is, I feel like if you told this story in linear order, then a lot of what makes this movie good, a lot of the impact of certain things that are revealed throughout the film, wouldn't hit as hard. And what I mean is that a movie is built on like little moments, and then you get to a bigger moment, and that's the point where it shakes up, where this movie gives you a gigantic moment, like right from the jump. And then the little moments hit harder because the little moments add to the bigger moment that you've seen. So like, say for instance, if someone was to get killed and then you go back and you see what led up to that kind of a deal. And I'm not saying that happens in the movie. This is just an example of what I'm talking about, is that character reveals and things that are given about the person and why he's doing this and who this guy is chasing her. All of this stuff gets revealed in such a way, and even about the person you believe is the protagonist, that it kind of flips the story on its head when you start to find out the different events that lead to the point in the movie that you're at right now. I don't know who J.T. Mulner is. I want to say this is their first film, but they do a very good job. Another thing I want to point out that I thought would be annoying, but this is shot on a 35 millimeter film, and it's shot on location in Oregon. And the cinematographer is Giovanni Rabinski, who has done like Save It Private Ryan, Gone in 60 Seconds, Lost in Translation, Perfect Storm, things like that. So this guy is a very good cinematographer, and I think the 35 millimeter really adds to what is going on. Another thing this film does well is that the close-ups and the shots that are shown are so zoomed in and things are so highlighted, it really impacts this film. So I think I'm going to break this down into, I'll do the story first, and then I'll do the the uh, the thoughts on that, and then I'll go into the characters and then the cinematography and stuff like that. So, in case you don't know, the big highlights here is Willa Fitzgerald, who was in Scream. She was in the Scream, the MTV show. She was in the Dare Me Amazon show. Hold on a second. She was in something else too. I can't quite. Royal Pains, and she was in The Fall of the House of Usher, which is the newest thing that she did. But Willa Fitzgerald in this movie is so fucking good. So I'm just going to jump into characters here. Kyle Gallner, who I've followed for many years, and if you don't know, he was in a lot of different stuff. He was in Veronica Mars, Smallville, The Haunting of Connecticut, Jennifer's Body, Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, Scream, Smile. He's really making a comeback. And so Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gallner are the two characters that are really holding this together. And both of their performances are top notch. Willa Fitzgerald has to go through a wide range of emotions. There's a lot of screaming and then getting calm and then being angry and then being scared when something happens. And I think that both these actors really hold this story. This is a kind of movie where the stars align, the moon is in retro Venus or whatever the fuck. You know, you have everything perfectly balanced to where everything in this movie just works. From the 35 millimeter camera to the visual choices that they choose to use throughout this film, to the music, to the pacing. Everything in this film is very deliberately done in a way that I think makes it all come together. Because the first part of this film is the middle of this movie, essentially, and it hooks you in and then goes back and kind of jumps around within this story to where you are kind of, as an audience member, having to piece together what's going on. And then at the end, and when you have the full picture, it pulls it together and kind of lays everything out to where you could see what everything meant. Now, this movie is not going to be for everyone. It does jump around. You really do have to pay attention because of the fact that this is a non-linear story. Is told very scattered shots. So it's one of those things where it demands the audience to pay close attention to what's going on, to pick up on the clues in order to be rewarded by the end of this movie. And I gotta say, this movie is fucking wild. There's a lot of crazy shit that happens in this movie. And this is the thing too, not just wild in the gory shit that happens. There is some pretty gnarly shit that happens in this movie. And car chases and all sorts of shit in here that I didn't expect going into this. But also, it's a wild movie when you put together what's going on. And when I was thinking about this review, I was thinking about why this movie resonates with me so much. What is it that actually hooks me? And the truth of the matter is, I think if you tell this movie in a linear fashion, this would be a generic thriller kind of a deal. But because of the choice to tell this movie out of order and force the audience to piece together what happened, I think it really adds to the draw and to what makes you sit there and want to put things together. There's a lot of things that happen, especially when you're jumping between the chapters of the story, and you're trying to go, okay, well, we were here and I know this, and then you go this, but then like say you're in chapter 3 and then about, I don't know, 45, 50 minutes into the film, you jump back or you go to chapter 4, but you went to 5 first. And see, you get like these certain reveals and then you get little reveals in the other chapters, but the little ones add more context. And I think it makes the story better because it's like telling a story in a linear fashion, only without doing it. And I'm highlighting this a lot because really the draw of this movie is its telling of the events out of order. and setting the stage the way that they do. The opening scene in this movie is fucking nuts. And it was something where, as a moviegoer, even though this movie is weird and it essentially flashes like chapter 3, and you're like, what the fuck, did they start the movie in the wrong order? It really puts you in a, oh, okay. And then as you're going back, and the odd part is it goes from chapter 3 to like chapter 5, and then back to the first chapter of the story. And so you get essentially the middle-ish, end-ish part of the movie, and then you jump back to the beginning, and then you jump back into the middle, and then you jump to like, so sequentially you're doing this jump back and forth, and it's just such a clever way to tell what otherwise would have been a normal, straightforward movie. Now, as far as the cinematography goes, it is gorgeous. The 35 millimeter and shooting on location really helps, but I really want to talk about the color scheme. They use a lot of reds, some purples. This movie is very vibrant in color, and what I mean is, like, literally for the scene, the tones and the colors in the background highlight whatever's going on. So, like, if say these two are arguing or talking about something or having sex, the colors change to mirror that atmosphere for the scene. Also, too, a bit of a warning. This movie does have some SA in here. It's not too graphic, but just an FYI, there is a pretty... it could make you nervous if that kind of thing makes you nervous, but it highlights the character. But yeah, so I have to throw that out there. Like, if that stuff bothers you, this does have a pretty, I don't want to say they show too much, but I would say it was the taste of the individual. Gets pretty violent, to say the least, which leads into the events of the film. But once again, even with the scenes like that, everything in this movie feels very tastefully done, right down to the blood and the gore. Everything makes sense. Everything has a reason for it happening. The other thing I want to highlight about this movie is the soundtrack. The soundtrack for this film is fucking phenomenal. And it's not just doing the cliche songs we've all heard before. There's a lot of unique songs in here, a lot of things I don't hear in a lot of movies. And it all fits coherently to the story that's being told. Now, my negatives for this film, and I do have a few. One, the scene that I was talking about, those kinds of things, like with that kind of assault, it's pivotal to the story, but it makes it very hard to watch. Now, you could skip over it if you get this at home or whatever else. And I don't think that it's something that the movie necessarily didn't need. It does highlight the character's viciousness and kind of foreshadows the events that we've seen, or the red flags, so to speak. And my other issue with this is the pacing can be slightly off in this movie because you're jumping around. So, for instance, you're going to start the movie on this high octane, like, holy fucking shit, what the fuck is going on? This is nuts. Like, basically, you're in the midst of a chase. There's some gory shit happening. And then you kind of hop back. And the danger of when you do this, and no movie is immune, even I love Quentin Tarantino, but even some of his movies can suffer from this, is the fact when you hop around, you kind of put a break on the pace. So you start people really intense, and then when you pull it back, it gives people a sense of whiplash, and it slows it down slightly. But all in all, to be honest, that's my only negatives. And I mean, the 35 millimeter took a little bit to get used to. Like, if you're not used to films being shot in 35 mil, it's a bit of a difference with the aspect ratios and things. So, and also too, the way the colors are set up and things like that, it could be very disjointing to see like all of these things thrown at you at once. And I think that could be another negative, not particularly for me, but in general, is this film is doing a lot. This movie is a busy movie, and it could be a very overwhelming, especially for the amount of attention the movie is begging you to, give it. So in that sense, that could be a drawback too. But all in all, I don't have very many negatives for this movie. At least for me, I thought the characters were fantastic. Once again, Kyle Gallner, I feel, has been like grossly miscast and finally getting good roles. Like, as far as movies he's done, like, he was great in Smile, but he really didn't have that big of a role. Like, this is basically, he is one of the main people in this movie, and he knocks it out of the park. And Willa Fitzgerald, I've known about. I didn't know her name until doing my research for this video, but Willa Fitzgerald knocks it out of the park. She is so much talented than even I thought watching the MTV Scream show. And I kind of knew with her performance in that show and then seeing her in these other things, but she just takes it to another level. And the thing that I like about this is the final girl trope is flipped on its head. And she plays this role just so well because it's so emotionally demanding. This is a very emotional, physical, kind of demanding film. And I think Willa Fitzgerald does an excellent job and knocks it out of the park. So all in all, what do I think? I think this is definitely a movie worth checking out. If you can find this movie around your area, I would highly, highly suggest you go and see this movie. I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed this film. I really think that it is a great paced movie. It has a good story to it. The reveals are done really cleverly. And I just mostly like pretty much damn near everything of this movie. It does suffer from a few pacing issues here and there, kind of in the middle of the movie. There's a bit of a slowdown because of the inherent nature of jumping around through these different chapters in the movie. But all in all, this was a good movie, and I'd say go see this. Don't watch a trailer. Don't watch any spoiler reviews. Go in blind. Just be aware there is some graphic sexual kind of stuff in here that might be a little bit alarming if you're sensitive to that. There is definitely one section in this movie that is kind of brutal. It's not just for the sake of being brutal. There is a story purpose to what is happening, but I just want to put that disclaimer out there so you don't go into the movie and get bamboozled. But honestly, if you are in the mood for a movie that makes you think, keeps you on the edge of your seat, and is just a balls out fucking wild ride, go check out Strange Darlings, playing in theaters now. It's in select theaters, but it has been catching on. So you might be able to find this near you. I had to drive an hour away to actually see this movie, but I would definitely suggest seeing it in theaters or, see it in your local streaming when it inevitably comes to Amazon or one of those streaming platforms. But Strange Darlings is great. I give it a 9 out of 10. Thank you very much for watching. I will be coming out with more reviews. I'm going to be coming out with a review on a comedy movie this year that slipped past my radar called Bottoms, which I just got a chance to watch and might be my favorite comedy of this year. And I'm also going to be doing a couple of shows. I'm going to be talking about the new Japanese animation Terminator adaptation because it was fucking phenomenal. And yeah, hopefully I'll have less rants. So thank you everybody for watching. Hit that like, share, subscribe. And if you're new to the channel, hit the notifications and all of the YouTube things. And as always, remember, there is only one rule here in the Phantom Zone: kneel before Zod.